Welcome and enjoy. Fuck, I'm gonna get this right one day.
Oh, I can't quit you, baby, but I gotta put you down for a while. Well, you know I can't quit you, baby, but I gotta put you down for a while. Yes, you messed up my happy home, baby. You made me mistreat my only child. Yes, you know I love you, baby. My love for you, I could never hide. Oh, you know I love you, baby. My love for you, I could never hide. Yes, you know I love you, baby. Well, you know you're my desire. When you hear me moaning and groaning, baby, you know it hurts me deep down inside. Yes, when you hear me moaning and groaning, baby, oh, you know it hurts me deep down inside. Yes, when you hear me holler, baby, well, you know my desire.
Man, I tell you what, thank you so much, folks, for being patient. And I mean you here on the panel with me, trying something as I always am. I love to, to infuse music into everything that I do. If I'm not listening to an audiobook, I've got some music playing. It's usually something along the lines of what you just heard. But without falling into that, I do know that Sleek the Geek has joined us tonight. The topic tonight will be Oprah's Golden, whatever award, and a few other things. It's all down here. But because I'm worried that we may lose Sleek, I kind of want him to jump us off on this. So without any further ado, I am the Laughing Ogre. We will introduce ourselves as stipulated before the show and then turn it over to Sleek. How y'all doing today?
I'm Sleek the Geek. I'm good.
Yeah, that was nowhere near a minute. But then I think, we can roll along, boys.
Go for a minute. I'm Sleek the Geek. I'm super good. Things are great. I'm having tea. We're all hanging out. I have a show called Hey, Good Morning, Let's Get Coffee from 9 to 12 most days when I don't forget to do it or sleep in. It hasn't been a minute yet. That's really all I got.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I was busting your balls because I think I said as long as you want up to like a minute. So, yeah, no, carry on. Whoever's next.
Next.
Hi, I'm Jensen Quinn. I'm the one in charge of the Discord channel. Pleasure to speak to whoever's listening. Hello.
And now we'd like to thank you all for tuning in. The one, the only, from the great empirical force of Britannia, the voice.
Hi, sir. Hello, everyone. I'm here to take over the channel and to teach you proper manners, you damnable Yanks. Actually, I'm the voice of one. I'm just another voice in the faceless millions. We all try to have our voices heard by someone. Doesn't matter who, just someone. Someone might be listening to what we have to say. I do mostly political videos, sometimes a bit of fun. So yeah, if you like the sound of that, check out my channel. And thank you for having me on, Mr. Ogre.
Yeah, and I unreservedly recommend his channel to everyone. The reason I say that is because though I am subbed to right around 400, I'm not even kidding, people, the voice of one is one of 6 folks that I do listen to. I mean, I've watched every one of your videos since I found you, sir. Not to kiss your ass. I'm just, whatever it is about you, it appeals to me. So whereas I may not comment on every single one of them, I got my eye on you, man, and you're not always right, but you always believe you're right, and that's what I like about you.
I'm
take it away.
Always right. How dare you, sir? How dare you, sir? Of course I'm always right.
In your own mind. So without any further ado, Sleek the Geek, I could play a portion of this. I'm at your service. If you would like anything played, just send it in the side chat. I've got voice meters set up.
No. I mean, just the Oprah, the whole Oprah thing, right? The Oprah speech. If they didn't hear that, I guess that's important because it sounds like, and a lot of people are saying it, I'm not the only one with this thought in my head. Obviously, that's why we're having this panel. Oprah might be running for president in 2020. It's looking that way. And personally, I'm super excited for it. Okay, and here's why. I got some really great reasons for why I'm super happy to think about Oprah as president, bro. Number one, Chicago beef. She likes beef. She's going to handle all these fucking vegans and PETA people, okay? She's Oprah. She can do it. She's got the power.
She was sued by the beef industry.
Oh, was she sued by the beef industry? I thought she was pro-beef.
Oh, yeah. No. Well, I'm not saying she's pro-beef or anti-beef, but somewhere in the late 90s, early 2000s, she made a remark on her show that beef wasn't the greatest thing for you and maybe a vegetarian diet might be more healthy. She was sued by the beef. I'm not making this up. Anyone can fact check.
No, you're not. I just had my facts backwards. I thought she was
don't get me wrong.
She was on the side of beef.
Since then, and even during the trial, Oprah, to prod you a little bit, because I remember when it was going on, even while she was not supposed to say much about it, she was so slick, man. She would be on her show and she'd be like, well, everyone knows the thing that's going on. And I must say that even though I said certain comments that there could be a healthy diet, especially with certain, flesh meats. I mean, go back and look at her things. So let me leave you on that. I don't want to get you too sidetracked. Are you serious, sir? You're telling me that right now in your heart, are you honestly saying to me that you would be excited about a Oprah Winfrey run? And
okay, apart from the beef thing, which I admit I was a little misguided on. Okay, fair enough. Second thing, I want to paint a picture for you, Oprah. It's election day. You've just cast your ballot for Oprah. You're sitting at home, watching the TV. They're tallying up the votes. Here comes Oprah for her victory speech.
I can't hear it. Sleek, I can't hear it. Send me the link.
It's always there.
What just happened? Hey, Sleek, hang on. Whoa. Sleek, what just happened? I can't hear a fucking word you're saying. You just went from clips to... There, I heard that.
Okay, I'm back. I don't know what happened.
If you were trying to play a link of Oprah saying something, give it to me and I'll play it. But something happened.
No. I was doing it, but there was no link.
You said something about imagine the day that Oprah is elected, and that was the last we heard. So if you can pick it up there, and
I'll rewind.
You got 2 minutes before I pass it on over to Jensen.
I'm done with that. Or I'm not done with that. I can get through that in 2 minutes. Okay. Oprah gets elected, right? She's going to tell you, everybody that voted for me, look under your chair. You're going to reach under your chair. What is it? A gift bag. You're in your house. You don't even know how the gift bag got there. But suddenly, there's an Oprah gift bag because you voted for her. She's going to be like, what's in the bag? It's a brand new car, a brand new house, a brand new job. Everybody gets a brand new economy. I'm just saying, Oprah as president sounds pretty dope to me if you've ever watched her show. I mean, she's giving everybody everything, so it's going to be pretty cool, right?
Yeah. And I was giving you time while I'm splitting time. I'm just getting a message from Magic Bollocks. Magic Bollocks, if you're listening, I'm just catching up. So I'm not sure. Like I said, that's why you lot are here. And it really says a lot about my co-host that I need at least 3 lads to make up for their 2 selves. No, but it says it seemed to be forgotten. No, and look, Magic Bollocks. No, I sent you something in Discord. So let me see again and make sure and check if I can send him something off into the deal. But no way, Magic Bollocks. I was hoping that you would be here from the very beginning.
But no, I'll pad out some time for you since you need help. No, I definitely don't. I'm joking. She's not going to give everybody a free gift bag with a loofah sponge and keys to their brand new hybrid and house and a new job, and everybody gets a school. But wouldn't that be nice? Because I think that's the feeling that a lot of Americans get right now. It's like Oprah is president. Free stuff, right?
No, not necessarily. And I'm not going to, and Quinn's ready to speak up. So not necessarily. And I'm working it out. I would realize I was just looking at a message from Magic Bollocks that was from January 5th. So I don't think that's relevant. One. Yeah, that's not relevant now. So it's all worked out. He'll be here. I went on early, and yes, Wednesdays will be 3:00 Eastern Standard Time. So carry on, Quinn, before I go into a bunch of housekeeping and break your train of thought.
All right.
Honestly, the whole concept of Oprah becoming the president, I don't want to disrespect the Americans too much, but whatever happened to having...
I'll give you permission.
I mean, politicians are meant to be doing this job. Now we're getting random actors and TV personalities. What the bloody hell? What is going on with your country? That's all I can say. What is going on? All yours.
Yeah, on to you, voice, and we'll give you a chance to warm up there.
Okay, short and sweet. Well, about her speech at the Golden Globes, it was just pure sexist towards men. I mean, she goes on about all the great women who did this, that, and everything. Let's be honest here, and not to offend any women watching, but it was men who built the world. Women helped, but men built it. Then she goes on about something that happened in the 1940s, like 70 years ago. So trying to say that we're somehow still as racist today in America as it was back in the 1940s. And she was on about how women have to do more, have the ability to do more than men. And then, of course, brings up the bollocks of Me Too. But honestly, if you want someone like that to be your president, I mean, we already know when Trump went in, I've said this before, he was surprised he won. If she gets in, I can guarantee you it'll be Obama times 10, because she will push an ideological and political agenda that is very to the left and far left. So no, I would not want to see her in office.
You get back to the back of the queue again, mate, is what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, we have to
Don't you know what I'm talking about, right? Do you remember when Hillary Clinton said, "Well, you know, if we do this thing, and we're, you know, the British want to get back to the back of the queue," and then there was one of your, you know, they said it in, they echoed that in the EU. I'm not going to suck your wind up. I just want to. And so, look, we need people that aren't going to put our Western world brothers in the back of the queue, because Nigel Farage said the best when he told the EU, look, it behooves you all to make a good deal with us, because it'll hurt you worse than it will us if you try to be dicks.
Well, speaking as a nationalist, I have to slightly disagree with you. I want my British politicians to put the UK first. Therefore, I want your American politicians to put your country first. And the problem is, we can't have celebrities. We can't have the lifetime politicians we have now. We have to look for a third option. You know, we have to look like John Bob down the street, who has run a successful hardware business for 30 years. Always been good to the people who works for him, who has a knowledge of what people have to go through on a day-to-day basis. We have to put people like that, people with accounting degrees, with degrees in what's the word, finance. You know, we can't have. We need practical people, not fucking windmills who will do anything and sell their votes for money. And you know.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll keep this rolling around the circle. I just wonder, I said it last night, and this is the thing that keeps getting in my head. Okay. If you are having a problem, you're a farmer like myself, and you've worked hard all year, and you put up your squash, and you put up your hard vegetables, you know, your root vegetables, your what I mean by that is your beets, your rutabagas, your potatoes. You've put up all of your stuff, you know, to feed you, and in my case, your chickens for the winter. You go out in the shed there, and you open the shed, and oh man, there's like a rat, you know, I mean a proper rat too, man. It's a proper rat, you know, 9 dagnab inches from nose to asshole, not end to tail. 9 daggone big old rat. Right, scurry off, and you know, what are you gonna do at that point? I got pellet guns I use for rabbits and rats, and man, I plug them, and I have other things. I don't use poison for fear of poisoning my chickens or my dog. What are you gonna do? Is that a good idea, or should we get more rats? And voice, that seems to be the answer that we get time and time and time again. You got problems, and then Parliament elects May. And, you know, I'm well aware of how it works in your country, and I think it's better as far as the electoral process goes than ours, because you don't have any hand in picking your prime minister. A lot of Yanks don't know that. They think that you vote like we did. No, you don't waste all that money and time in these big, garish freaking parades and circuses of look at me. And I mean, millions and millions of dollars. It's not wasted. You pick your member of parliament, and they pick your prime minister. Anyway, look, I'm obviously rambling. So if that wasn't enough prodding to you, voice, I kind of, this is insanity. The answer to rats in your corn bin is not more rats. The answer to Muslim invasion is not the woman that said, "Ooh, if you see a terrorist attack, run, hide, and tell." That was Theresa May, your Homeland Security expert, whatever the hell they called her before she was prime minister. That's that cowardice. I was under the impression, sir, voice, that you were somehow at least distantly related to Wellington and Nelson, you know, people like this. Am I wrong? Are you actually from a pack of sissies?
I would say I'm probably more likely spawned from someone like George Foreman. If you know who that was, it was a British comedian in the, I think, 60s. No, you see, the problem is, I mean, you have to remember that here in Northern Ireland, there's 4 bits that make up the UK. There's Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland. Now, in Northern Ireland, we don't even get to have a choice who's prime minister. So that's one thing I would point out. But you see, May was a Remainer. She didn't want to leave. So now that she's in power, and you have to remember that a lot of the politicians who are Remainers also have a second job in the EU as a MEP. So that's one of the reasons why they don't want to go against what the EU's pickle. Okay, why they want to go?
No, carry on. I'm just trying to entertain the people while you speak. I'm going to fire up this fat doobie.
Well, that's nice. Bring me on, and then say he's going to entertain the people while I talk. I'm not offended at all, Ogre. Maybe I should have worn me nipple clamps tonight, but
Not wearing them? Oh.
No, I've only got the butt plug in tonight.
Someone already brought up Kraut tea once tonight. Can we leave the nipple clamps and Kraut tea out of this, please?
Well, he was a German. We're lucky he wasn't shitting on someone. But no, but you are right. It's the politicians, you see, and this is the thing. This is one thing that I really do want more people to understand, that they have forgotten over time. We, the people, have the power. That's one thing that the governments have did their fucking ever best to have us forget, that we have the power to remove them, to tell them what to do. But because we have been split along ideological grounds, along political grounds, along state or your county grounds, they have done their best to keep us all separated, so we don't know we have the power. And that's the one thing that's great about things like this show, the internet, because we get to come together and say, remember, to everyone, and help more people get involved. So it's up to us. The next time the round of voting comes around, even though I know we all would turn around and go, well, they have no chance of getting in because they're a very small party. Well, just forget about that and vote for them anyway. Even if they don't get in, have your vote count for something, even if it's just counting against the politician's narrative. Have it vote for someone,
So you don't buy into the even if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. You don't buy into that. You're saying cast a vote, even if you go in and vote for Roger Rabbit. Cast a vote.
There's a lot of people who say they don't vote. That's I don't agree with that. If you've had the chance to vote, that's your chance to change things, and you owe it to yourself. You owe it to your friends, your family. You owe it to if you have a principle for life.
Even if you don't vote, you can shut the hell up, right? You can bloody shut the hell up because you got no say then. You had no
exactly. You can't complain about the politicians if you didn't try to vote them out of office. If you didn't do anything proactive. Like this year, or I think it was last year, or the year before. I can't even remember the last time our voting was. But I voted for the Weed Party. There's a guy who has a hemp party here, and that's who I voted for. I didn't want to give my vote to some fucking lifetime politician, so I voted for him. He didn't win anything, but at least I know I tried. And the problem is too many people are not trying. In the last American election, only 54% of people who could vote did. Now, you think what would happen if all 100% of people voted? And that's the problem. People are so fed up with fucking useless politicians that we've been ground down to the point where we don't care. We knew we're going to get fucked over by whoever's in power, so we just muddle on.
Well, and then I watch Fleckus Talks. I watch, you name it. I don't want to go down the whole litany because I'm not trying to make a commercial for people, but I go and they're out there wading through this sea of, oh man, I don't want to be too ad hominem. They're out there talking to Antifa and whatnot, asking them to, hey, what's your political position and blah, blah, blah. And then here's the question. And this is what's so poignant, Voice and Jensen. Who'd you vote for? And what do you think they say, Voice? This Antifa lot. What do they say?
Well,
I didn't vote.
Yeah, the
I didn't vote. It's
communists.
overwhelming. It's 9 out of 10 of them say, "Oh, I didn't vote." You didn't vote. You're out here saying Trump hate, love Trump's blowjobs or whatever you're saying, and you're out here, trying to fight with people like base stick man Kyle Chapman, and he's beating your ass in the street like the faggot you are, and all this shit, and you didn't even vote. Shut up.
Yeah, but yeah, that's because these young people, they just open. I mean, they haven't been. They've went to school, so they've went to high school. So the majority of them went to college, and yet they don't know how the world actually works. I mean, it baffles my mind how they could go through so much education, even if you're completely against the normal traditional model of education. How can someone go through that amount of education and still think things like communism are a good idea? Still think putting on a balaclava and acting like terrorists is a good idea? It just shows there is something fundamentally wrong with the people in the world today when they think that's okay.
Yeah. And let's face it, because we see, okay, to us lot here, and Jensen, you ain't said much on this. Maybe you want to kick us off on this train of thought. When we see a female in a burqa, okay, and I'm telling you, I was looking into this the other last week, and I'm trying to think of the country. I couldn't remember it then. It's some Raqqa or something like that, some city where the women, okay, look, it's the same rules as everywhere else, boys, but they can only show one eye. They've got bloody gloves on. They had a picture of this woman coming out of the market, right? Coming, she's got her fit young lad is off at work making the money, and she's off to market to get the food. And like your wife, in England, right? Except for one thing. She's got on this torture device of robes over robes, like thick blankets, and only one eye. Gloves, even, mates. Gloves. It's the bloody desert. It's 40 Celsius. It's the bloody desert. 45 Celsius. So I don't even know what to say to this. And the more I look into it, the more I see this Oprah stuff coming up, the Jensen Quinn, the more I ask myself, what do you want me to buy? What do you want me to believe? What do you want me to accept, ingest, digest, regurgitate? Do you want me to be brainwashed? Would I fit into society better if I just swallowed it hook, line, and sinker and said, fine, and dandy, Andy?
That is exactly what they want from you, to just follow their narrative, even if they change their narrative halfway through. Your job is to just sit there and agree with them and be a good citizen. And that is something I refuse to do.
Here. No. Well, at night time, I like to start counting, so only 1 second to dead air. And I was going to prod you deeper, Jensen, because this whole idea of identity politics is coming to this. Gun crime. Because, there's no guns legal in here. But look at the statistics. It was just on Drudge last week, and I started, look at the statistics. Gun crime is up in London right now.
And yet we have no guns in this country. Impressive, eh?
You got them. Every Muslim that comes over brings his AK-47 with him. Everyone. And they don't. They're used to that, and they're not going to come to your country where they hate you and want to kill you and be unarmed. I mean, why in the world would you? If I was going to invade your country as Islam is right now, why would I come unarmed? I mean, hell, I would first indoctrinate you and get you to say anything bad about me was a hate crime and you go to jail for it. Then I would bring a bunch of my people over there. I would tell them, don't learn the language, even though you've lived here your whole life. And I would have kids that didn't know the language. I'd teach them the Quran. I would tell them that everybody around them was devils and that the reason we were here was to infiltrate this area and to take it over for Allah. And that it was their sworn duty to steal the land of Nelson. I mean, good Lord. But I already said it, boys. because I can't believe it. To me, I could come on, lads. Can you honestly imagine some of your forefathers looking at the way your country is right now and saying, "Oh, that's okay, that's fine, this is fine. Let's have more of them come. Let's have Scotland now say they're going to take 200,000 in. That's a bloody good idea."
Could you honestly imagine Winston Churchill being like that? Like hell. I could see him standing there, shotgun in hand, telling people to piss off, put it bluntly.
Yeah, I don't want to cut you off there, Johnson. So
Go ahead, mate. It's cool.
Now go. Yes.
Just nipping back to the burqa, I mean, like, it shows how brainwashed we've been by the politicians. I mean, the fact is, me, you, Jensen, everybody watching, we are probably more feminist than the actual feminists are. When we see a woman head to toe in that, not because of any environmental factor, like out in Egypt, the Middle East, you would wear long baggy clothes, you know, usually lighter white or brown to keep away the heat and the wind. But when we see someone like that, walking down the street, wearing that because they've been told to by the religion, by the men in the religion who are just so pathetically weak and scared of women. We see that oppression as it is, and that is as oppression. But the feminists, the so-called liberators of women, see that as some sort of personal choice these women have. Wearing the burqa is not a personal choice for any woman in Islam. That is mandated by the Quran, by the imams who fucking preach all the hatred, how women are second class. I mean, you even had that corrupt, I don't even know what word I would use for him, the Canadian Prime Minister. He will shout, "Oh, we need more women, we need more women," and then there's no problem going straight to the mosque and having the women sit at the back because they're not thought of as equal to him in the Islamic religion, and he has no problem with doing that. I mean, it just shows you that the whole fucking thing is fucked up beyond belief. I mean, like, if you'd have told me when I was a kid, like 30 years ago, that, you know, we would live in a time when speech wasn't free. You know, when someone's, you know, teaching their dog a joke of Sikh Highland, you know, they would end up being in court for that. I would have laughed in your face. But we have actually come to the time when that is an actual thing that is happening, and not just, I can't believe that. I can't believe the sort of shite that we have been forced to not agree to, but forced into by political ideologies that only serve the very few. The leaders of those ideologies, they're the ones getting paid, they're the ones getting fame, you know, and they don't care about the actual women, the children, the men. These things are actually hitting or hurting. I'm sorry, I could go on for a long time, but I hate
Carry
how
on,
we.
carry on. Take your time. Magic's
No,
just getting here, and he'll introduce himself. Just take your time. Just relax and keep going, and go until you're done. No one will stop you. Carry on.
I just hate how we have got to this place. You know, when men and women are so scared of dealing with each other that because of the fear that's been created by these special interest groups, these ideologies, that you actually have phone apps now where people can sign to say they consent to have sex. I mean, that's just not normal, you know. Yeah, my rant's finished for the minute.
I actually agree with you, mate. You're completely correct. Whatever happens to human interaction when now you've got to sign all these things just to cover yourself so you don't get sued or whatever, it has become ridiculous. And
What's
someone
up? What's up, Magic Bollocks? I see you there, man. Yeah, sorry, and you know it's not only it's to accommodate us, but just until Common Sense Guy is out of the his pre-study here for the next, I think he said 12 weeks, whatever it is, 2 months and 2 weeks, so 8, 9, 10 weeks, I think, including tonight. So after tonight, be 9 weeks. We'll go on at 3, and hopefully that'll be easier for you. If not, no worries. I mean, I'm just trying to make sure that when we go off, and the 2 hours has been killing us. I'm going today for at least 2.5. I have to because there was things, and we're always trying new things. And folks, I can't derail this too much with housekeeping, but the point is, I will probably ease it back up, Magic Bollocks, to about 3 hours a show on our big show, which is now, and that's not only to differentiate it from my little rants and little live streams, but it also does seem, I mean, and looking back and seeing what's just happened, we get more viewers and we get more time watched when I keep it up closer to 3 hours. So I don't know. Those of you that are just joining in, look at it as a bonus. So I'm not sure if you've been listening, Bollocks, but who cares? What's going on today, brother? What would you like to say as your hello this morning today?
I'm literally just got home, Mr. Ogre. I didn't even know you started. So I'm just here as normal but because I'm late, I'm just tagging along. What's the subject of conversation today, boys?
Oh, you're not late. We're talking about Oprah Winfrey's golden shower speech, and or what was that? Did I say that wrong? Was that a misspeak? Whatever.
Golden shower speech.
What was it?
That would have been far. It'd be far more interesting to watch if it'd been a golden shower speech.
But we were talking about that and the idea of, because we were saying about Tressa. I said about Tressa May and how she was your home secretary, and then she was like, run, yell, and tell, right? If you see something, you must say something. If you run and hide and then call the authorities. That was her advice. It was all she put it out there. Was public service announcements. And I'll tell you what. What's up, man? Oh, Mrs. Ogre's looking for something. I'm sure she'll find it. So is that what we need? I mean, my analogy was, if you have rats eating everything you have and pissing on your stores of corn and grain, is the solution more rats?
In her respect, probably, because of the fact that it was something I said to Aries after the show when we were talking about his philosophies, and I was asking him, why do you think our leaders keep bringing in people from especially the third world at the moment? And of course, I think he subscribes to the idea of they want extermination of the white race, and it's a theory that nobody can really prove nor disprove at the moment. But I said, well, okay, that's fine, but there are alternative ideas to it, and I think one of the reasons they do it, because I think there are many, is because it gives each economy in the West short-term boosts. And in terms of, like you said, the rats eating the corn, I think if the rats are actually allowing the owners of the corn to get richer, they don't care how much they eat. So it's a case of, so long as the people with the money are not being affected and in fact making more money, then the rats will be able to carry on nibbling as much corn as they like, and the rest of us will just have to put up with it.
Well, that's well said.
I don't know what Oprah Winfrey wants to do when she becomes president, but I imagine that it'll be probably more of the same.
You know what? Now that you said that, I've got something here for you. Let me see if I can do this. I have, because you just said, what does Oprah Winfrey want to do? Is that what you asked, sir?
Yeah, of course.
Well, because I don't want to speak for her. We always want to let people, say what it is that they want to say for themselves. We never want to put words in their mouths. We could agree with that.
Well, what you've just brought up on screen has put plenty of words in my mouth.
Well, let's see what Mrs. Winfrey has to say here.
long as people can be judged by the color of their skin, the problem's not solved. There are still generations of people, older people, who were born and bred and marinated in it, in that prejudice and racism, and they just have to die. As long as people can be
wrong with that at all, is there?
Yeah, the problem's not solved. There are still generations of people, older people.
Now, how recent is this?
10 times, but there you go.
How recent is that, Mr. Ogre?
That was probably. It's not real recent. When did she say that? This has to be. I'm going to guess somewhere between 7 years and 12 years ago, somewhere in there. I don't know, but who cares? She still thinks the same thing. She brought up 4 white guys raping a black girl in 1945. I looked it up. Last year, in the United States, there were 50 cases of white men raping black girls that went to trial, and there was a conviction. 50 cases.
Mm-hmm.
Bad number. Black men raping white women, there were over 55,000 cases. So I would say, if you want to bring something up, Oprah, and want to make it seem racist, make it not from 1945. And don't paint it like there's hordes of white people out there raping black women, white men raping black women, when the case is over 50,000 cases of black men raping white women anyway. So, I don't want to, because what'll happen, gentlemen, is because I said that, I will be called a white supremo. I just want to tell everybody once again, as I have many times, I'm Jewish, so kiss my Jew ass. They won't have me.
If I can for a minute, I would like to play a devil's advocate. Not talking about her speech, but talking about this video. She does have a point. Not the point she thinks she has, as considers to white people, but she has a point. I'll use a practical example from where I live. The reason Northern Ireland is still bogged down so much is because too many of the old guard on all sides have still those hatreds, have those political convictions that brought us to the shitty place in the first place. So I think we can agree that there is a portion of people that are too old to change. They are entrenched in their hatred and shit. And
and the reason I disagree with you, I'm sorry, I should let you finish. Go ahead,
sir.
But the reason I disagree with you is because if you look at serious racism, I will kill you for your race. I wouldn't hire you because of your race. I would hold you down because of your race. That doesn't exist. What we're talking about now is a group of people that are they are ethnocentric, I believe is the word I'm going for.
I don't think that's the people she was talking about, though. I mean, if you're talking about hatred, that hatred does exist, but it's on the black side now.
If that's not what she was talking about.
It's on the black side now who want to kill whiteys. And like, if you look at the attitudes that whites had to blacks in the 40s, that's what the attitudes of blacks have towards whites now.
Okay, all right, I ain't gonna argue with that then. I'm not
I can understand the point she was trying to make. There are, I think that clip was early 90s, was it? She looked
it was a while ago. Yeah, I think so. It might have been as long as.
But it will again. We're talking about someone who will change their mind, like any celebrity, on any given day about any topic. So how much weight can we actually put in what she says today if she's going to change it a month from now, etc.? None.
None. So, no way. Magic Bollocks, I'll be right back. I got to take a 5-minute stretcher if you'd take over here, and everything's going fine anyway. I'd hate it. I probably should have put it in the side chat, but we'll let Magic Bollocks take over right now, and there's a good possibility he might steer this conversation in a different direction. That would never be bad. Thanks for being here, mate. I don't know how we're going to muddle through without common sense on these Wednesdays, but we'll try to be – what we're going to do is the first 2 hours, we'll try to be like, proper schoolboys, and then the last hour, it's bloody, no holds barred.
Sounds good to me. Yeah. I'll carry on with what Mr. Ogre was talking about then. Is do you, any of you boys here or anybody in the chat, actually think that, because obviously Oprah herself hasn't put herself forward as a potential candidate, but everybody sort of around her is attempting to. I should imagine this is the first of many that a lot of people might dig up on stuff that she said in the past. But because of the simple fact that she's in two protected classes at the moment, she's a woman and she's black, do you imagine that if she did run in 2020, that she would potentially have an even more sort of protected campaign than even Hillary managed?
She will have an almost guaranteed success, and that's the problem.
I would disagree with that. I would say she has no chance of winning.
Why is that one?
Well, you have to remember that, you know, when Trump won, he was a celebrity, right? And we've had a celebrity now for a year. So going for another celebrity, the shine's worn off, you know. Plus, unlike, I don't think, you know, Ogre said they were protected groups of black and a woman. But we can see that, again, with the election of Trump, there's a big push against those narratives, against just giving black people things because they're black. They're against giving women things because they're women. For the next 3 years, that's going to play a bigger part, and that's going to get larger. So I would say by the time 2020 comes around, there will be enough people willing to fight back against that ideology. That means that her chances of just walking in are going to be greatly reduced. And plus, we don't know what skeletons she has in her closet. You know.
Well, we're already starting to see them by the sounds of it, although that audio clip did look a little bit mashed in some respects. I mean, obviously what she said doesn't reflect very well, but I mean, the thing is that those were very badly chosen words. Regardless of if you have an ideologue at completely a different end of the spectrum with what you believe, you, as a sane person, would definitely not wish death upon them. You might wish them to be exposed for having a bad ideology. You might even want them to go to jail, but actually wanting them to physically die, that is a bit extreme.
I don't know, when a politician starts calling for genocide against a specific group, something about history, it just brings up memories that make me think it's not a good idea. What do you think?
Sir, look at my avatar. Don't go after the one and only.
I made no claims about who you was thinking. Oh.
Well, the funny thing is, the one actually brought up my theory as well, which is when he said that when Ogre was saying there's no real racists anymore. I agree with him on the fact that there are. It's just that nowadays it's blacks who hate whites, and they are fulfilling the actual, what I deem as the real definition of racism. Racism is in you actually hate somebody simply because of the color of their skin, whereas not this ridiculous Marxist ideal that you're a racist because you're oppressing the blacks because you come from white, because you're white and you have white privilege. That's just fucking nonsense. If a black person sees a white person and just generally wants to hurt them, beats them up because of the color of their skin, I'm sorry, but you're a fucking racist.
Agreed.
Yeah. So there was those I think it was 2 boys and 2 girls, black, who took that disabled guy into a room and kept him for 2 days and tortured him. And for some reason, that wasn't, I don't think they were convicted of a hate crime, when that was what would be the very definition of a hate crime, what they did. You know.
You notice how it was only reported on the news once, maybe twice, and then you don't hear anything about it anymore, do you?
No, it was very telling the way that disappeared so quickly. Like, if that had been 4 white people and a black disabled kid, that would have been run for months.
Yeah, Yeah, things like that do tend to get swept under the carpet rather quickly, doesn't it? But it's, I don't know if it's really worth discussing what, you know, different people think about what the end game is of our establishment at the moment, what they're actually pushing for. Because, you know, I like a good conspiracy theory as an X-Man, but I do try to look at things from the point of view of, say, you know, what's actually in it for them at the moment. I can see two things, which is importing voters, because obviously the more people who are welded to the state, the more they'll vote for establishment / left-wing parties. And two, when you've got millions of people pouring into a country, regardless of whether they're on state benefits and contributing nothing to society, they will still be buying things in the shop. They will still be spending money, which of course all goes towards GDP. So it makes it look like a country that's actually in the dogs is actually doing better than what it is. I mean, our country is a fine example of that. We've got pretty good GDP at something like 1.8%, and yet we've got one of the worst productivity levels in the Western world.
Yeah, well, I would also say, did you notice the way Nicola Sturgeon is trying to give illegal immigrants the right to vote?
That's right.
I mean, like she's doing exactly what the Democrats are doing in America.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to stay in power. I mean, that right there should be she should be voted out. You can't give votes to people who were not born in this country, who didn't earn the right to vote. I mean, that just goes against everything democratic, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, it's the old, if you're not prepared to do as you're told, then we'll bring in people who will.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not yet subscribing to the whole alt-right theory that it's white genocide. I do generally believe it's the elite's way of staying in power, like you said. It's to bring in people who will vote in the correct manner. Because if they're all welded to the state, a right-leaning party that's going to tell them, no, you have to get off your ass and work.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's not white genocide. It has nothing to do with race. It's culture. That's the difference.
Yeah.
You know.
And no, carry on.
No, well, we've had immigration here from white European countries where the Romanians and the Bulgarians have come in here. They've set up criminal gangs. So you can't say it's just brown people coming in to take shit. You know, everybody's coming in to take shit. That's why I don't agree with the alt-right.
Yeah, exactly. It's as long as there's people in the country. I think what's happened is they've done it in stages, haven't they? Because they've obviously, you know, done it with the Eastern Europeans, and now they're doing it by opening the floodgates further field to get even more people in. And yeah, obviously,
no, go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir. Sorry.
No, I was finished. You know, you carry on.
No, I think we're actually living in the consequences, the fallout of a consequence that they didn't think would happen. I don't think anybody ever thought Brexit would happen, and now I think we're just seeing the political scrambling to see which way the wind blows. You know, I think we're living in that short period of time where no one was really prepared for what was to happen.
Well, the most satisfying thing of that is to prove that the working class, especially, still do have a voice. And I think that's what's pissed off the establishment and all the ne'er-do-well middle classes who just do exactly as they're told because they're quite comfortable and done very well out of the status quo. And it really has shown up that even after all these years, we've been told that class doesn't matter anymore, that we're a classless society, it still very much exists. And it's quite interesting seeing the sneering that's coming from certain people. And it's amazing that we see so many grown-up adults acting like children who've had their favorite toy taken away from them because they won't accept that the country voted the way they don't like.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely hilarious. I mean, it's been like a year and more since Brexit, a year since Trump got in, and people are still actually losing their shit over it. I mean, is there anything in your life, something that happened that you were still going nuts about it 1 year later? You know?
No, I can't even think of the only thing I can think of that is this drastic that people carried on is the anti-war that surrounded Vietnam. Because other than that, even anti-war with the Middle Eastern conflict and all the bullshit weapons of mass destruction, I think we can all agree on that. That was nonsense, and the fog of war nonsense with fucking Rummy Rumsfeld was near criminal. But you know what I mean? So other than that movement, this is the longest lasting one. It's also, gentlemen, if you can comment on this, the most unfathomable.
Yeah, pretty much. I think they've been so used to getting their own way for so long that they just do not know how to cope now. But it's mainly people who come from real privilege, people who've come from money, people who have done, who've not been affected by the status quo. They'll be middle upper class who've done well out of crony capitalism, and they've their jobs haven't been put under pressure from foreigners coming in, undercutting wages. Their lives have been completely unaffected, and they don't like the fact that the chattering classes have been given the chance to vote in a way that they don't agree with.
Oh no, they want to shut them right up. And it's the middle of the show, and it dropped too. So because we were from 20 to 18, so before we lose any other viewers, I just want to take this time to say Jensen Quinn is holding, even though I think at this point he's not sure he's doing it, but he'll know now. Jensen Quinn is holding a t-shirt contest on Discord for the Ogre Channel Discord. I already heard from one person, which is what sparked this, being RPR, that he was going to make a t-shirt, an Ogre show t-shirt. So I would encourage anyone that wants to win the contest to think about these things, please. It would be the Ogre Show. So if you put my face on it and it says Ogre Show, well, there's two other people that are going to be voting on it, Magic Bullocks and Common Sense Guy, and they're not going to vote for your shirt if it's got my face on it that says Ogre Show. I mean, just keep that in mind, that there are two other people, regardless of the title of the show. There are two other people in the show. So if kudos, and who knows who will win? Who knows? It may be Magic Bollocks. It may be like a penis on a chalkboard with it, the test pattern with it. It could be that. Who knows what it'll be? Although that may be copyright. So to make a long story short, we'll be having a t-shirt contest because we love busking. And Magic Bollocks is like, I don't love it because I haven't been paid yet, but we're close, Magic Bollocks. Mrs. Ogre just handed me the thing. I handed it back. Our little account is set up, so we will be able to open the floodgates of the super chat. And once the computer's bought, which is our first goal with this, I mean, of course, things are going to happen. So it's going to be different. And it's just, it's only dollars, but hell, dollars make sense, right? So this is the deal. We don't only want to ask you for that money, as I went off on that little diatribe. It's not just that. We appreciate it. We love it. Our goal is that we would like to get $5 a show from, not the same bloody person, JJ Soda Rock, and, the you that gives so generously, but some of you other cats that got the money but are just tightwads. We'd like, can we agree? Could you say, am I being a dick, Magic Bollocks? Wouldn't we like $5 from those tightwads? Yes,
I'm glad to see you're catching on now, Mr. Ogre.
Okay, all right.
No shame in it. Give us your money, you bastard.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And so anyway, but the t-shirt contest, if you win the t-shirt contest, we will not pay you a dime. What we'll do is we will say you are cool as hell because you designed this shirt, and we will give you 10% for 12 months of the whatever, if any, real profits are realized from sales of said t-shirt. So to make it very simple in layman's terms, if you didn't just catch what I said, if you do a cool design and win, for the first year, we'll give you 10% of anything that we make over and above what we have into it. So please, all of your designs will be considered. It doesn't matter how goofy they are, how silly they are. I would say this, keep them small, keep them something nice. Don't make something big and stupid. If you do, it'll probably just be disregarded. So where were we at, lads? This is so much fun, man. I tell you what, I love this beyond measure. And I was a little worried, Bollocks, because I was like, oh, man, it's Wednesday. Bollocks has got to work the next day. What am I going to do? Common Sense guy's gone. I could just do a rant for 4 hours. Everybody knows that. But after, 30 minutes or so, it's like, oh, it's the ogre, and we're watching the ogre ranting. I'm not so egocentric that I think I'm Rush Limbaugh and anybody gives a fuck to listen to me for 3 hours.
I think you've been doing very well lately, Mr. Ogre.
So let's carry on. Let's crack on.
Yeah, your little shorts you've been doing, it was absolutely fine. So, and the thing is that you are getting the views, so you must be doing something right. And it's nice to see that we're still getting all the regulars back in as well. And I'm starting to see some new names in the chat as well.
Oh, I am too. We see a lot of new ones. Dutch Tulip is one of my favorite newbies. But just in order to segue from this, all this talk of what's going on in Me Too and everything else, I would almost want to prod the voice of one to give us his idea of this elitism, this elitism that we see from the elite. I don't know how else to say it. The people that say, oh, my mom and dad were really rich and I'm really rich, so I'm Paris Hilton, or, these folks. And then they didn't only strike the lottery of life and, were born with a silver spoon, but they also feel it necessary to tell us how to live. That should be enough prodding for you, voice of one. Because this is the next half of the show. Yeah, we're probably done. If somebody else has something to say about Oprah Winfrey, but we don't want to beat up a black girl or rape her like they did in 1945. We just want to say our piece, and I think we did move on. So there you go, voice. What's up with this? And do we need these screeching autistic? No, that's prodding you. That's actually leading you into my way of thinking. So what's going on with this? And do we need these people telling us what to do?
I think he's gone for his cup of coffee, Mr. Ogre.
Oh, bloody hell, he's gone, is he? Oh, I just
temporary. Yeah.
Well, he'll be back.
But I said I can answer that for you. I would just say we have got a lot of elites, as you like to call them, in panic mode at the moment because they have had 2 massive defeats in the last 2 years. And even though the European elections last year were pretty much as expected, they are less important than what happened. And I think 2018 is going to be very interesting politically as well, because the Italian elections are coming up and it looks like they're going right-wing as well, populist. And obviously we had the Austrian election last year where Austria has returned to the right for the first time, I think, since the 40s. So, and also with Eastern European being very staunchly nationalistic and right-leaning and refusing to budge. I think either they've got to adapt and accept that that's the way the pendulum is now swinging, or they're going to lose even more ground and populism and nationalism is going to start taking hold again. And I say, good. About fucking time we started sticking a middle finger up to these arseholes who want completely open borders so they can move their money and labor around without question. No, we are people who are proud of where we come from. We're proud of our heritage and we're proud of our culture. And we ain't changing just so some rich scumbag can make a few more dollars. Fuck yourselves.
I agree with you.
Well said.
Yeah, the question was originally directed at you, one. So I don't know if Mr. Ogre would like to reiterate it again.
Oh, sorry, I was away making a coffee. Sorry.
No, it's all right. He was basically asking... what do you think of the sneering elite that we've ended up with? Why, what can we do about them? or is there anything we can do about them? I mean, obviously we have, because I said we've had 2 victories in the last 2 years.
Well, I would, if I had the power to do whatever I wanted, I would take all 635 of them out of Parliament and have them publicly flogged before sending them all into the ocean. But again, that's a pipe dream that I can't make happen unless I get my own private army.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think, and I think me and Ogre were talking about this earlier on. It all comes down to remembering we have the power. That's what happened with Brexit. That's what happened with the Trump. People, the elites have been trying to tell us for years we don't have power. We need them more than they need us. But that's not true. They actually need us more than we need them. So again, it's just to keep sounding the masses out there. We have the power.
Yeah, I quite agree. And the fact that I'm actually surprised that we are still given the vote these days. I think that's the whole purpose of something like the European Union, to eventually take that away from us. But while we've still got it, we intend to use it, and we will.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't know what would happen to this country if the Communist Labour Party got in. I mean, holy fuck.
It would be, well, at least it would be entertaining, but it would also be catastrophic for our economy.
Yeah, I mean, holy crap. I mean, there's been 2 of those party members come out and say they are communists, that they want to see a revolution. I mean,
I know. It's I mean, the thing is, it's only a few years ago, the whole idea of Corbyn being Prime Minister of this country was just absolutely laughable. But it did prove at the last election how idealistic a lot of young people, especially students, are, and we're voting en masse to put that, or attempt to put Labour into power. In a funny sense, and even though I don't want it, they kind of need a dose of socialism to show them why so many of us don't want it and never did want it.
Yeah, my only problem with that would be is that instead of a lesson, it could end up, we all lose everything and can't get it back. That would be my worry,
Yeah, I know. It's the point of being able to know that you could vote them out after 5 years, but after 5 years, would that even be possible? Because who knows what they're going to do in that 5 years, and continuously letting in more people they will know will vote for the Labour Party if they promise them the earth. But I honestly think that things would actually pretty much fall apart in that 5 years, because no business is going to invest in Britain if they're, with the risk of having it confiscated by the state at any time. And if people's taxes are creeping up because they've got to pay for all these socialistic policies Corbyn wants to bring in, renationalising everything, it's going to be, those middle class types who think that they're not going to be affected and just feel virtuous have got a very nasty surprise coming. Yes. All the celebrities who are quite happy to endorse it, yeah, their money won't be in this country when Corbyn gets into power.
No, they'd all be moving to America. The country they keep saying they hate,
I know. So in that respect, I do kind of say bring it on, but at the same time, it will be a very hard time, very hard. I'm sure it'll seem great to start with. Socialism always seems great at the beginning, but once it gets going, yep. And obviously Corbyn is still a massive fan of old Modro and Chavez, so that's pretty much a little window into what Britain could potentially become.
Well, anyway, I'm not going to defend anybody right now. Forget it. Well, it's tough when I think about Venezuela and I think about Chavez. He was loved by his people. He didn't even have guards. He would go into the barrio, into the worst parts of town, and they loved him because he would fix their bikes and give them money. I mean, Venezuela, let's keep in mind, didn't crash until he was done, until he was dead. Once he died, by who knows how, maybe he was kind of fat and he probably lived a good life. Maybe it was natural causes, but I'm suspicious, man. And as soon as he was gone, well, boom. I'm not, and also, believe me, I know about the nationalized oil. I know about all of it. But you got to admit that when he was in control of the third or fourth, was it third largest oil producing nation, maybe fourth in the world, he took care of his people. But no, that's not. The reason I said I didn't want to say all that is because it would sound zero cool, like I was, sticking up for a socialism or a tyrant. And I would never do. I'm not going to do that. There's no example of communism working or socialism working unless you believe in the religio Christian, Judaic Christian Bible, and that would be the Garden of Eden was communistic, and it didn't work apparently.
I have to disagree with you there. It wasn't communistic, it was a fucking hippie colony.
Well, you said commune though. That's same thing. But yeah, that was just, it was a joke. So carry on. It's just such a good show. I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing. I'm going to go silent again because when I started talking, we went down to 21 viewers, Magic Bollocks, and when you were in control and I wasn't nowhere to be seen, we were up to 23. So I'm just going to hand it back over to my co-host, who seems to be doing such a cracking good job.
The British takeover.
Yeah, you don't want us to take you over, otherwise you'll be socialist before you know it. Yeah, but the thing is that sometimes for people to learn, they do have to be punished. And I think the young in this country, less so in America, because obviously if you let the socialists in there, then their constitution could be ripped up, and we don't want that. They're the sort of last bastion of supposed freedom we've got. With the socialists back in power in this country, I'd like to think it could potentially mean they will be unelectable then for another 40 years. So even though, I mean, it would also potentially stop my old man from being a miserable fuck for probably about 5 minutes, so that would be nice. But yeah, you don't know this one, but my old man is a very staunch socialist, always has been, and as I've said before in the past, he would vote for the reanimated corpse of Jimmy Savile if he was wearing a red rosette. And it is been because I was very much like him when I was younger, but then I actually bothered to learn about political ideology and realized how bloody awful it was and how it doesn't work. I'm now accused of being his Tory son. So even though I do not support the Tories, certainly the ones we have at the moment, because they're not Tories, I don't really have an affiliation with any political parties in Europe because there isn't any that's really worth supporting.
Well, and here they're only about 45%. They're less than half, but tell the Yanks what Tory means as opposed to Labor and whatnot. Well, compare that to English. Tell them what that means.
We effectively have a two-party system in the UK because there's only two parties that effectively have a chance of winning. There's the Conservatives, who we shortened to Tory. Now, the Conservatives are supposed to be the right-wing, sort of bit like your Republicans, I would say. And they're supposed to be the conservers of our tradition, our culture. And that's what they've supposedly always been up until recently. And then you have the Labour Party, which was formed in the early 20th century through the Labour movement of the unions. And to be fair to them, in the early 20th to mid 20th century, they did as they were supposed to, which was to look after the working class. But unfortunately, they have always been infested with hard left socialists. And during the 90s, during the 80s and 90s, they were effectively unelectable as they began to move from left to center. And then, of course, we had the rise of Tony Blair, which then led to a very successful 13 years for them in power. But they effectively became globalists, I would say. Tony Blair was very much a expander of government as big as possible. He was very much supporter of the EU, of neoliberalism, and the Tories then adopted their policies so they could become electable again, and that's how we've ended up in the situation we've now got, which was there was virtually a 5 packets difference between the two of them. And then, after the 2015 election, the Labour Party then very, very surprisingly at the time voted in Jeremy Corbyn, who is a very, very hard leftist, who is a very hard socialist, still believes in it, no matter how many times it's failed everywhere in the world. Seems to be almost an anarcho-capitalist, not anarcho-communist, because he seems to support every terrorist organization going in the world, such as he supported the IRA, he supports Hamas, he's been sponsored by the Iranian establishment. Yeah. He's very much an idealist. I think his intentions are good, but his actual ideals will just lead to bankruptcy and pretty much the fall of Britain.
You know they will, and it's 420, everybody. So just very quickly and continue on your words. Fire up your doobies. Happy 420. What was that you're saying about this? This is very interesting. So I mean, this stemmed from the idea. I just wanted to know the difference between Tories and Labor, and this is so carry on here as we track with you. Pay attention to folks. If he's getting deep, just listen to him. He's telling you something very deep here. So what was that you were saying there, sir?
Well, I was just saying that the modern Labour Party is now gone probably beyond what it was ever set up to do. Like I said, there was always socialists within it, but it was always originally a party for the working class. Nowadays, it is under Corbyn, it is now a Marxist party. It is for people who want hardcore socialism, which, of course, will eventually lead to some kind of authoritarian communistic regime. With the Tories, on the other hand, I would not consider the modern Conservative Party right-wing. I would consider them centre-left, where New Labour, as it was under Tony Blair, was. So they are very much neoliberalist, globalists, and quite happy to import millions of foreigners because that's what the people who fund them, the big corporations, want. So we don't actually have, with maybe the sole exception of UKIP, but they're irrelevant now because they've basically fallen apart. We do not have a right-wing party in this country at the moment.
Well, UKIP's fallen apart, or they just served their purpose and now are no longer needed.
They effectively were a one-man party under Nigel Farage, and he was the driver.
Boris didn't hurt him.
No, nothing to do with Boris. It's literally ever since the referendum, Farage stood down, and they are now just falling apart because there's nobody good enough to lead them.
Too damn bad, man. I tell you, Nigel Farage, the quintessential Englishman. Whether you like him or not, you have to. If you see him there in front of Juncker and the crew there, the motley crew at the EU, he just the quintessential Englishman. Man, I really have a deep respect for Nigel Farage. I named my prize rooster after him.
Yes. Well, the main problem is that, like I said, UKIP effectively was just a one-man band, even though there are obviously other members. And Farage was a charismatic and very strong-willed leader who left them at the conclusion of the Brexit vote. And I'm assuming he thought they would just carry on to similar success in the future. But just to give you...
You think that? Yeah, you would think that.
Just to give you an example,
they've blown it.
Just to give you an example of how much they've fallen, Mr. Ogre. At 2015 general election, this is before the Brexit vote. Oh. They got 4 million votes at the general election in 2015. Now, when Theresa May called the snap election last May, take this in mind. So 4 million, 2015, and 2 years later, 600,000.
Yeah, all right. Okay. Well, listen. Look, class, this is what's going to happen. This has been wonderful too, and we've all got some things in there. It's been good for me to listen. I'm going to listen more now, but we do have a great guest with us here. I think you've already noticed that, Magic. And it's not Jensen Quinn. No disrespect to him. Jensen Quinn is just always lurking there. Even when he's not here with us as he is today, he's always there. He's our head moderator. He runs our Discord channel. I mean, Jensen Quinn is Quinn. He's Lord Quinn. He's always there. So I'm not taking away or adding to him. But I do want to take this chance right now to, in fact, now that I said that, Quinn, is there any way you'd like to steer this? Because here's the deal. Politics are fine. We can go there deeper if we'd like. But I don't know. Maybe there's something on your mind before I give voice deference for being our guest and a chance to do this. Maybe there's something on your mind that would, come on, leave this in the dust. It's Bloody Wednesday. It's hump day. Something maybe that'll take our minds off this stuff that's been on your mind. Something funny, something sad, something interesting, something glad. Something like that. You got anything like that, Quinn?
Okay. How about we go for something nice and really cheerful? The fact that Pakistan are considering using nuclear weapons on the Indian soldiers.
Oh, Lord. Hey, you know what? And we will go there because, and I should know because he told me this before the show. And I was like, if you get a chance to bring it up, bring it up. So there you go. So tell us all about it. Tell us what's going on and what, just bump us off.
Apparently, the people in charge in Pakistan, I'm not going to bother trying to do names and stuff. That's for other people to look up. But apparently they're willing to let their soldiers carry small micro nukes because of the sheer size of army difference between the Indians and the Pakistanis. It's getting to the point they're considering letting them use nuclear weapons. Is no one else considering this as scary as it is to me?
I would like to know what micro nuke means. And don't get me wrong. If it's like a dirty bomb, is that what we're talking about?
We're talking basketball-sized explosive devices with a nuclear core. So probably dirty bombs. Yeah. So
well, a dirty bomb would have radioactive material around a basically TNT / glycerin based explosive, and a small nuclear device would actually be nuclear fusion causing the explosion. Can anyone else see how that would be drastically different?
I can, but what they were saying was they were talking about tactical nuclear weapons being carried by their troops.
Tactical nuclear weapons. So that would tell me that it's not a dirty bomb. It is actually.
Sorry to interrupt you. It's actually a HATF/9 Nassar missile, which is a short 60-kilometer range, but you can attach nuclear warheads to it to up the yield. It's a short-range surface multi-tube ballistic missile, and it's on the back of the truck.
38-mile range nuclear weapon is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Air, ground to ground is what, or can it be ground to air?
Well, it says surface to surface, so
ground to ground. Oh, Lord have mercy. Have at it, boys. I'll listen like I did before because I'm sure you don't need my input. This is, yeah, okay.
I was going to thought a surface to surface bomb, isn't that a hand grenade?
Yeah,
of course that is true, but it's anything that would be fired from the ground and land on the ground, obviously, Bollocks. But yeah, a hand grenade. Hey, let's remember, Bollocks. Now that you brought that up, let's remember Korea when your countrymen helped my countrymen, and they were being attacked. They went over the 45th and kept going, and then they ran into like 500 million screaming Chinese. And they were contacted by the American leader of that incursion there as they were withdrawing. We called it the Frozen Chosan Reservoir. So we called up you lot, and they said, "How's it going over there, you British?" And your the person in charge of that encouraged. I wish I could remember names. I wish I could. But this guy's a hero, and he was like, "It's a little sticky over here, lads." And of course, the Americans, they were like dying, so they're running away, and so they took a little sticky to mean they had it under control. What the guy meant was the British Marines were reduced to throwing cans of corned beef, because when the cans thunk hit the ground around the Chinese, they thought it was like a hand grenade, and they would run, and it would give them a little breathing room. They didn't have any hand. So anyway, every time I hear that too, man, from the English person Magic Bollocks, when they say hand grenade, I think corned beef. Because boy, you push you lot far enough, man. There's no way. You cannot beat the British Empire. I just want to interject that.
Well, that would have been a beautiful sight to see. Loads of Chinese men running for their lives at the idea of an unopened can of corned beef landing on it. I would have been standing there shouting, "Throw bread and butter with it as well." Oh, what a beauty. It's amazing, isn't it? How sometimes it just comes down to pure idiocy that you can win a battle, isn't it?
And look, I don't want to detract from this because I did want it to be light, but we talked before, and we've got plenty of time, boys. We've got an hour and a half left. So, you know, if it's 60 kilometers is right around 38, 40 miles, that's quite a distance. Look, because you have power doesn't mean you should wield it, I should say. I've got a blind chicken out there. I saved its life. It's living out there. It poops in a cage, and I clean up after it. It lives in my house. I could go out there, wring its neck, and cook it for dinner tonight. I love chicken. I ate chicken the other day. But see what I mean? Because you can wield power doesn't mean you should. And there's no way they should be putting any kind of surface-to-surface nuclear weapon on. No.
Ogre, there's a link I put in the side chat there that takes you to the actual showing of the machine they're going to use. Just if you're interested.
It says video unavailable.
Well, it must be. You see the way YouTube always makes L's instead of I's? You know, the capital I and the L are the same fucking thing. I get the way they do that.
So I don't even know what I'm trying to look up because it just comes. I've tried it 3 times now. It says this video unavailable. Yeah, so, and I know I'm sorry. I cut this down because there's so many people here. If I fade out, it's because I take the microphone. I recommend this too. If you're going to get into YouTube and you're thinking about spending the money for a Yeti, well, this is made by the same company, and and I'm not getting paid a dime for this. I'm not Mundane Matt, Fat Jawbone, whatever his name is. I'm just telling you from my experience. If you want a plug and play mic, get the Snowball, not the Snowball Ice that has no selector in the back, but get the Snowball. It's got 2 condenser mics in it, and that's it. That's enough for them. So, and I know it's coming up with snake eyes on that. So look, I feel like I broke in here anyway and tried to steer it too nice when Jensen Quinn had a perfectly wonderful topic. We have soldiers in Asramagan, or what is that, but Pakistan, whatever it is. And that we have these soldiers here who are basically our allies that are supposed to help us guard the poppy fields so the CIA can sell heroin to the Negros in the bad part of town here in America. And then if they don't like them, bust them and send them to prison for, selling the heroin. You know how it is. You know what they do. So now we're talking about basically glorified heroin dealers, people that are supposed to watch over fields of poppies so that they can sell this black tar heroin and ultimately sometimes scag itself on the black market. I mean, come on, boys. Should I prod anymore? Why on earth should they even have anything more than an AK-47, let alone a surface-to-surface nuclear weapon? This seems like bedlam to me. It really does.
Well, it is potential for a big crisis, isn't it? But I remember reading, I can't remember where it was. It might have been on Zero Hedge, that in certain nuclear scientists in Pakistan, obviously a lot of them are still hardline Muslims, still believe, because of their religion, that nuclear fusion isn't actually a scientific theory. It's actually it's to do with Muhammad himself, who is magically creating the splitting of the atoms inside the nuclear reaction.
Oh my bleeding fucking piles! Oh my aching asshole!
Yeah, it's not actually science. It's actually Mohammed who's actually causing it to happen. And
You're
these are scientists.
Kidding me. You gotta bloody
I'm being serious. Now
it makes me, but you know what? It makes me think about those. Look, there's this guy in South Africa, and they have this meeting, and they're trying to talk about how science is imperialism and it's white supremacy. And then the guy says, "But you know, we know that black magic and stuff is not real." They made him apologize. It's a famous clip. You know, that's all I can bring. Yes, and I think you're being. I think you're being.
Yeah, that was in South African University.
Yeah,
that was at a university.
Yes, yeah. And so, look, I hate to break in there like that, bollocks, and I think you're being facetious, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
No, I'm being honest. That's what it actually said, that there are Pakistani scientists who generally believe that it's not.
But what do you think about that?
What do I think? I think it's fucking hysterical. But at the same time, just a little bit worrying if you've got people who call themselves scientists and they're still putting religion above what they should know to be what is actually happening.
That can hardly even be called religion. It's barbarity. It's barbarians.
Hashtag all cultures are equal.
Fuck that. Yeah, and look, and I hear from you, because as a Scotsman, voice, you must have some. No, I'm just teasing. I always go. I've got it
everywhere I go, every stream I'm on, the first thing people do to wind me up is call me Scottish.
Every fucking time. And you even said on the stream earlier that you were Northern Irish. So no, anyway. But does it bother you, mate? Because you can see that now they're talking about letting 200,000 of these people that apparently think it's okay to give their. Oh man! So you're next. You're next, voice. Mark my words. I'll give it 2 years tops, and whoever's in charge up there will be like, "Well, we need to have some more Muslims up here in Ireland."
Well, I can maybe in the south of Ireland. But it won't happen in the north because we don't even have a government at the minute.
That's true.
Yeah, and you lads also have been known historically for not quite bending over and taking it, if you know what I mean.
Well, we are so backward here. We don't even allow gay marriage. Yeah, Muslims coming in to take over here, not going to happen anytime soon.
Well, you know what? As far as gay marriage goes, allow or disallow. But no, go ahead. It sounded like you had something else to say.
No, I'll just explain what's going on here. You see, we have four main parties. We have the DUP, UUP, the LP, and Sinn Féin. Now, unfortunately, at the minute, well, actually, since about November of last year, our government split up because they couldn't agree on how to go forward. Now, ever since then, we've supposedly been having talks, but the talks have ended up doing absolutely nothing. And now we're stuck where nothing can get done. And I mean, nothing is getting done because no one's sitting in our in Stormont, which is the Parliament houses here. And it's just a joke. I mean, that's why there's more and more people wanting to go back to direct rule, because simply we can't govern ourselves. I mean, ever since the Good Friday Agreement and Stormont being put back into place, it has just been one clusterfuck after another. You know, so whatever happens here, I don't think you'll see the changes that you're seeing in the rest of the UK.
Yeah, I'm gonna let one of you other Brits comment on that. You must know more about it than I do, or not.
I don't know a hell of a lot about Northern Irish politics, except to say that we obviously know about the DUP at the moment because they're in coalition with the Conservatives, because that stupid cow Theresa May managed to completely balls up the election last year and ended up losing the majority the Conservatives had. But
well, that's it. Who the hell thought fox hunting was going to be a fucking vote winner? Like,
that's the great mystery. I'm actually of the belief that they wanted to lose that election. They wanted Labour in so that they would have to deal with the Brexit negotiations. Because
I would agree with you there.
yes, it was just the fact that Corbyn, even with the surge in support by the students and all the other fucking idiots, they, you know, she still couldn't lose enough so that she would actually have to, you know, form a government and carry on. But I'm glad in a way that they had to take the DUP, because the DUP are a proper right-wing party who do actually want Brexit to happen. And they can effectively cause the current ruling Conservative Party to fall if they decide to break the partnership, should they wish to.
Yeah, but that's good in a way, but it's also bad that such a small number of people in the, you know, DUP party have that much power, if you know what I mean. You know?
Yes, yes.
That's...
Yeah, it's the trouble is with any coalition, of course, there's always going to have to be compromise. And then she supposedly, in the conditions of the deal, is that they're supposed to give Northern Ireland Assembly £1 billion, wasn't it?
Was it not 2 billion?
Oh, 2 billion, yes. I knew it was something like that. Have you actually seen any of that money yet?
Not where I live, no. But again, I remember our government isn't even in power at the minute. So
really,
yeah. So there's nothing happening here.
Oh dear. Yeah, I wonder if they will ever actually see any of that money before the next election, which I doubt very much will be 2022. It will probably be a lot sooner than that.
I have a funny notion there'll be a new party in power before we see any money.
Yes, and I should imagine that whatever new party is in power, they will probably refuse to give you any then, won't they?
Of course.
Well, that's it. This is my main problem with politicians, right? And again, this maybe just is me wanting too much out of politicians. And this goes back, 100 years, politicians only think in the length of their time in power. They don't think, if I was a politician and I was going in, I would say, okay, I would first start with how it affects any policy, how it affects the poorest first, and then work my way up. I would also say, okay, well, this is good now, but what the effect's going to be in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. That's why London is so congested now, because back in the 40s and 50s, no one said, well, this city is growing. We need to have some sort of system to be able to have cars and stuff running in the population that is come. No fucking politician is ever thinking and far enough ahead to do any good. So when 5 years is up, a new party comes in, changes everything. 5 years later, a new party comes in, changes everything. 5 years later, a new party comes in, and nothing gets fucking done. That's what winds me up about this whole fucking thing.
That's the only trouble with the democracy we've got, isn't it? It makes everything short term within just the next 5 years. They don't really give a fuck beyond that. If they can win another 5 years, that's great, but then they will just spend.
Well, it's because they're like the Muzzies. This is what the Muzzies do. So you've got the Ayatollah Khomeini, and he wants to come in and talk to the premier of Israel, and he says, "We will make an 8-year treaty with you. Allow us to move into the West Bank and be peaceable, and we'll for 8 years, and we'll talk about it then." They have no plans to do that. With what they usually do is 4 to 5 years, once they've moved a lot of people into said area where they're supposed to have a peace treaty, they break that peace treaty by starting to attack the folks who now, in fact, they usually wait until they're overwhelming numbers. And so, you know, man, it goes back to it's the same thing. I'm gonna tell y'all something, England. We ain't doing it here, and our president right now, like him or not, has a lot to do with the the reason why we're not taking all these Syrian refugees. What they call refugees, Syrian refugees. What, they're all 18 to 32 years old, male, no females. That's like 90% of them, 80% of them. Well, no females. I thought refugees were supposed to be like children and women. These are military-aged men. Give me a freaking break. So come on, can we have some fun? Let's wrap this up, this last thing. Let's all give our last words on this. And then if nobody else does, I seen Common Sense Guy in the chat, and he'll have something fun for us. If not, I'll pick something.
Well, I put something in the side chat there, Mr. Ogre, for me.
Just, yeah, there we go. It's probably going to be great.
It's the Fake News Awards today.
Oh, mercy.
Who won?
Let me share this.
I don't know. I think it's actually live now, I believe.
Let me share.
That's something else I put in just for a laugh as well.
It's funny though.
Yes.
Yes. So Fake News Awards live stream. I don't know. This is a lot of information here.
Yes, that's actually 4chan, Mr. Ogre. That's why I was.
Yeah. Oh no, I see his poll.
Yeah.
I go here all the time.
It's the easiest place to go and find something to laugh at if you're a bit short of humor. But as soon as I saw the actual Fake News Awards, I thought that would be quite interesting for us to discuss. Who I should imagine that without actually looking, I should imagine that CNN will be doing pretty well.
This is too good to pass up, though. BBC Teach is lying to children, telling them they were black. Roman Britons, and you see this.
Yeah, the only way that would be true is if there was fucking chains on them.
Oh, anyway, so Celtics, Celts.
Celts, yeah.
You see this black Celt? I'm sure there was lots of English noblemen. You see this guy is even this English nobleman here. He's bloody. He's like a Fu Manchu. He's Chinese.
We did have a few Moors, but that was about it.
And look at this blacksmith here in England in the Iron Age.
He's not.
And of course, here's a Norman priest in Norway. Here's an old Norman priest in the switch over between the pagans and the Christians. Here's an old Norman monk here, a darky. Anyway, that's pretty good. That was funny too. That was good. So yeah, and you know what? I don't think they talk about whitewashing, and what I honestly believe is this, folks. When they start talking about that, the reason, okay, look, it's an end for them. You dig it? So they say you're whitewashing, and that means they can go back and do revisionist history and say, oh, of course, the Celts, the Celtics, that was one of the best. Yeah, I'm sure that like 1 out of 3 of those were dark skinned, right? No, give me a break. No more than in Tanzania 300 years ago, 400 years ago. How many white people do you think were in the Congo? It wasn't even called that then. How many white people do you think were in the Democratic Republic of Congo 750 years ago? Huh? Any answers? Nobody? None. You know why? Who gives a shit? Were they evil because they didn't have white people? No, white people didn't fucking live there.
I think the BBC's excuse of what I've heard is that they've said that they have a quota regardless of the programming, including history programs.
Of course, it don't matter how fucking good it is or bad. They've got to have so many darkies, so many people in wheelchairs. Carry on. I'm sorry. That makes me sick. It's ruined. It's ruining BBC. If they don't watch it, they're not going to be able to export their stuff. And that
I actually was, when I was at my parents on Christmas Day, they had the Christmas episode of Doctor Who on. Now, I've given up on Doctor Who a long time ago. It is absolute shit now. And it was part of, the ending that I caught was actually based in the in the Christmas truce of 1914 in No Man's Land, where obviously the English and the German soldiers got up into No Man's Land, met, and had their football game.
Yep.
Now, how many black people do you actually think were there during the Second World War?
Zero.
We obviously had Indians and many other members of the Commonwealth.
There may have been one or two in the whole company.
Those were Indians. Now, this was very, very fascinating because you had men climbing out of the trenches, and I saw at least 2 black captains. That would not have happened. There would not have been blacks on a higher ranking than an English Tommy. He wouldn't even be a Tommy. He would have been fucking shot by either side. So the very fact they are doing that and they expect people to actually believe it is not only insulting, it's just plain fucking lying.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Magic, there are those young people in, the SJWs, 17 or starting college, who will believe that shit. I would say there are people out there who believe everything they see. It's...
And I've got breaking news from Loafer Sheffield. Breaking news. Breaking fake news from Loafer Sheffield. Are you ready? This is breaking fake news from Loafer Sheffield. Mm-hmm. Loafer Sheffield has a 12-inch cock, but he does not use it for a ruler. That's funny. That's funny. All right, carry on.
He's got the shortest 12-inch ruler in the world. There, I think.
I think he needs 4 of them. If you put 4 of them end to end, they make a full foot ruler.
The trick, Mr. Ogre, is what you do is you push it into your belly as far as it will go, and you can maybe get an extra 1/4 of an inch.
Oh, yeah, we shouldn't be making fun of his penis. He already did it for us. That was very funny. Very funny. Very good. I see everything that's said in the side chat, every last word, but there's very few things I comment on because you didn't pay me to comment on it. If you give Magic Bollocks, £5 right now, he'll talk about whatever you said all night long. But that was good enough for us to mention.
Well, you see, I also have a 12-inch cock, but thanks to EU regulations, I can only use 5 inches at a time.
Hey, I've got about a 28-inch black cock. His name's Nigel Farage. It's my prize Australorp rooster. I've shown
you really have a bromance for that guy, don't you?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I like Nigel. It's just you don't see that often where you have a gentleman that is also just a bulldog, man. And he would mock these people. He would dog them and then say in interviews after, he'd be like, oh, yeah, it was just in good fun. Of course, they tell me what they think of me. We can all meet in a pub afterwards and have a pint and we'd be jolly good friends. I mean, Nigel, you can't beat that guy. He's slick as a fucking snot on a doorknob, man.
Nigel Farage is obviously considered a very good man by a sizable proportion of the British public, but not with the establishment, though, Mr. Ogre, because for at least 2 years now, there have been calls for him to be knighted in the New Year's Honours list. And last year, there was a name that came up as a rumor, and it actually turned out to be true. And I'm sure one will know this person. A certain Nick Clegg was given a knighthood. Now, Nick Clegg is the complete opposite of Nigel Farage. He is your atypical Remainer. He was leader of the Liberal Democrats when they were in coalition with the Conservatives before they ended up losing, I think, 75% of their MPs in 2015 because one of the things they promised in the 2010 election was they'd vote against tuition fees, so all the students voted for them. Then when they got into coalition with the Conservatives, they voted with them to increase them. And they basically went along with all the policies that went against supposedly their voting base. So come 2015, they suffered a massive loss. He resigned and then stayed on as an MP and campaigned heavily to remain in the EU, lost. And then come 2017, because the Liberal Democrats carried on as the anti-Brexit party, they ended up losing even more numbers, although they actually gained a few MPs. Nick Clegg lost his job. He was voted out. And he went on and wrote a book called How to Stop Brexit and Make Britain Great Again, apparently. And so he is the atypical enemy of the working class in this country at the moment. And the establishment saw it fit to give that waste of fucking space a knighthood for all his efforts to subvert democracy. So it pretty much tells you everything you need to know about the people in charge of this country at the moment.
Yeah, that's a book's worth right there.
Yeah.
All right, so look, lads, I'm determined to steer this in a happy note. So I may go on a little. Give me 2 minutes, lads. Before you start my 2 minutes, I have to say, I hope that you come back again. A voice of one. You've already went through the, as it were, our doorman, and I'm sure that you'll be welcome back any other Wednesday that you're free. I'll see if you're free. If you feel like coming by, we'll plan accordingly from there. And why? Anyone else that would like to be on? Hey, look, get up with Common Sense Guy. There's one human being, and he just happens to be here right now. I mentioned him, that listened to the what to do if you want to be on the show, and he did that. He didn't come and say anything to me. He went and talked to Common Sense. Common Sense scheduled him. Common Sense got with me, and so here he is. So if you care to be on, go ahead and do that. But I already said it. There's someone here warming the seat that seemed to fit in so good tonight. I can't say enough about it, voice of one. But if I say much more, it'll seem like I'm your butt boy. So I'll leave it at that. When I think of comedy, and the difference between comedy here in the United States and comedy in Great Britain, something always comes to mind. And it's a show called Frasier. Are you all familiar with a show called Frasier?
Yep.
A voice.
Yes, got all the seasons. So yeah.
So do you enjoy that show, gentlemen? Before I carry on.
Yeah, it's fine. Kelsey Grammer is a very funny man.
Yeah, and I think him and his brother. I think that the combination you have, in essence, I believe the reason why it wasn't only a success here, but a smashing success in Great Britain. It was very well received there and played very well in your country. Was because you have the quintessential English comedy condensed. I mean, they tried it on Cheers, which of course that was a spinoff of Cheers. But when they went full on with Dr. Crane and his brother, they took it to another level. I don't think they realized what they were doing. So here's what I wanted to get into. Who created cringe? And what is it about English folk that the more that makes you go, ooh, I'm glad I'm not that person. Almost a Schadenfreude, if I said that right. Almost that German thing that can't be said except for in German. That joy at knowing that you're not that person and seeing this person in a bad situation. If that's enough, I hope it is. I could go deeper. But what is it about English humor? Why was Frasier a success there? Is it because of what I'm saying? Is it because I see them as these, self-deprecating butt of the joke? Boy, I'm glad I'm not that person kind of deal.
I think it's because Frasier was kind of an underdog. I think that's why he struck a chord with us Brits. Is because we are always the one to support the underdog. Even though he was obviously a doctor radio show, reasonably successful as a full-rounded human being, he had a lot of faults, especially when it came to obviously the fairer sex. And I think that's where he resonated a lot with us. Was we shined to the fact that he was a man full of faults, and we got to observe those faults. And we do it with a lot of American comedies. That's why we love The Simpsons. Because I remember in the early noughties, they did I think it was a countdown of the top 100 comedy characters. And I think number 1 was actually Homer Simpson. So you can see that that kind of humor is very much embraced by us. because Homer Simpson is, again, somebody who is an underdog, and he's an underdog because he's not particularly intelligent, but even though he obviously, he fucks up so much and you'll say stupid things, and that resonates because we find it funny. We're rooting for him to do better. I think the kind of humor that probably doesn't do as well is when it's humor based on actual smugness. But underdogs, definitely. I think that's probably why someone like Basil Fawlty is always so loved and cherished, because not only is John Cleese a comedy genius, but it was just something incredibly funny watching this poor, psychologically oppressed man with an overbearing wife in a job he quite obviously hated, trying desperately to stave off a full-blown midlife crisis. And there is, in a sad sort of way, an incredible amount of humor to be found in, a poor man in that situation, basically struggling to keep it all together without mentally falling apart. So I think that's probably the reason why. Plus, in the fact, Fraser was very well written as well, I guess.
I would also go further than that. When you talk about the underdog, I think the majority of British shows were the underdog. I mean, you look at Rising Damp and Porridge and Boone. They were never about the person who was making everything. It was always about the one who wanted to do well, or who had accepted their position as a working class guy and just got on with it. I think you were right when you said it was about the underdog. I think we do love that over here. We do, yeah. It's any sort of situation where somebody is pretty, down on their luck for whatever reason it might be. But I mean, my all-time favorite sitcom is Bottom with Rick Mayall and Abe Edmondson, and of course that is as far as you can get in terms of underdog. Two men at the absolute bottom of the social pecking order, just desperately trying to have a reason to live, effectively. And I had to say, I loved their live shows. Oh, they were hilarious. Oh, absolutely brilliant. And I will miss Rick Mayall for every single day of my life that goes by that he isn't part of this world anymore. And he has the pair of them actually have an uncanny ability to do slapstick that I haven't seen for a long time since. Maybe Reeves and Mortimer are similar, but not quite, nowhere in the level that they could pull off. It's no, I mean, but if you'd have to go back, it would be Hale and Pace. I think would be better acquainted with them. Yeah, I think that's the sort of the kind of double acts that started appearing in sort of like the 60s onwards, aren't they? We don't really get as much anymore, and if they are, they're absolutely fucking horrendously bad. Yeah, I miss the two Ronnies. They were hilarious. I think Ronnie Barker is definitely deserves the title of genius, because what he could do with the English language and his own acting abilities. I mean, probably my all-time favorite Two Ronnie sketch would be the hieroglyph sketch, because it is so clever how they did it, and it's how Ronnie did, because of course he wrote it under one of his pseudonyms. And one of my all-time favorite sitcom characters is, of course, Albert Arkwright. Because again, open all hours. Absolutely. I mean, it's on when you explain to people something about on paper, does it sound like something that could work? But then you see it, and just the simplicity of making of a northern shopkeeper who's incredibly tight with money and has a speech impediment, and when you put it all together, it's absolutely hysterical. And the till. And the lethal till. Young David Jason and the nurse next door. What the funny thing is that David Jason was already in his 30s when the show began, and he was always portrayed as like a bloke who was permanently 18, who never been out with a woman, never even got any. But don't you miss the days of that innocent comedy? You know, there was a few, what would you say, risque comments that the adults would get, but it was innocent and genuine in a way that comedy isn't today.
Oh, absolutely. Innuendo was just absolutely brilliant, because you didn't necessarily need to be full on filth to be funny if you could mess around with the language. And David Croft, it was David Croft who wrote it, I think, because he did a lot of comedies in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And he was just a master at, giving them speech that was just, perfectly normal.